You are listening to Art Destinations, a podcast where we host fortnightly conversations with artists and thinkers living and or working on islands to see how these unique places shape imaginations. This season is set in Sicily, following on from our Luchuita, Tasmania and Venice series. Hello, my name is Sarah Rhodes, an artist based in Luchuita, Tasmania. I co-produce Art Destinations Sicily with SARP Gallery Director Alfio Puglisi. Today, I'm in conversation with Hanna Burkart, who was born in Vienna, where she studied industrial design and site-specific art. In 2017, she gave up her permanent home to live and work in different places around the world. Her works are created while travelling, often in direct response to her surroundings. Through daily rituals like walking, sleeping and living, she develops photographs, drawings and texts, as well as installations, sculptures and site interventions. We'll share some of Hanna's work on our Instagram page at artdestinations.podcast. If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Art Destinations on your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And leaving a review really helps support us. Welcome, Hanna. It's wonderful to have you on Art Destinations.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to hear you. Nice to talk to you.
We first connected through Alfio Puglisi after your residency and exhibition at SARP in Lingua Glossa earlier this year. What struck me was how inseparable your way of living is from your art practice. You're moving from place to place, responding to your surroundings, and just allowing intuition to guide not just the work, but where you go next. How do you feel about being described as an itinerant artist?
I would say it describes my practice in a very good way since I'm traveling for more than 10 years now. Traveling means that I'm at one point creating my works on site, so I'm doing site-specific works, but it also means that the journey to those places are already a work itself. So first comes the journey and then comes the site-specific work. And I would say, like, traveling for me is like a painter, for example, would need a studio to paint, and I do need different spaces and surroundings to create my work. I would say maybe it's the love to travel, and the love for different landscapes and architecture, cultures and people. That's why I need to travel. It's like, and that somehow explains this practice. So it's not the studio and the linen or the canvas, but it's more the surrounding, the outside, and how I deal with it. Yeah.
So when did you start working like this?
So first I studied industrial design, and then during this study I realized that I like to spend more time outside, but also create works that are open for different people. I mean, which everyone could use, kind of. So I studied landscape design beside. And while studying landscape design, I figured out if I really want to understand the landscape, I need to walk through it. And then after walking through landscapes, I figured out if I really want to understand a specific space, I need to stay overnight, because I'm curious about this subconscious level while staying overnight. And then as a next step, I realized when I want to get as much input from a surrounding as possible, I want to stay as long as possible. So that's why I decided to live at the places I'm working with.
Okay, so was there an event or a moment that made you think of working like this? Because were you living in Vienna at that time?
Actually, I mean, the moment when I decided to give up my apartment was on a very important journey in 2015. On this journey, I realized that I'm the person I want to be when I'm traveling, because when I'm traveling, I'm more open, I'm more humble, I'm spontaneous, I'm grateful. I also have this trust in the world and in everything that happens, that it works out. So when I'm traveling, I don't know, it brings me to the right places at the right time. And this feeling was somehow the motivation to work and live in that way. It was this feeling I had that really, brought me to make this decision to give up my permanent home.
But that's a really big decision. I mean, we all love traveling. I feel an affinity with your experience. I feel a sense of freedom. But I wouldn't be brave enough to come home and pack up my home and just, be free, I suppose. Was it just, just having that feeling that you were your best self when you were traveling, or was there kind of what gave you the courage to do that?
I would also say that I analyzed at that time what was my capital. And when I was 25 at that time, and I realized, okay, right now I don't have a job, I don't have a partner, I don't have any children, I don't own anything. And looking at all of these aspects of my life, I could see it like very dramatic and negative as well. It's like nothing is here. It's like, what am I doing? I don't have anything. But I saw it as something positive, and I was like, how could I use this potential of not belonging to anything specific right now? This was like a very strong moment for me to realize, there lies a lot of potential in not owning anything and not being in this fixed situation right now. And I thought I need to do it now. Otherwise later, everything changes so quick that somehow I could, get pregnant easily, whatever. So my whole life concept would look differently. But at that time I was like, that's the capital I have right now. So I need to do it now.
Oh, that's very inspiring. So, you've been doing this for 10 years now, so it's quite a lovely moment to be reflecting back. How do you think you've changed over this time?
I got more calm, and I realized that it's very important to take care of myself, because traveling could be very exhausting. And back then, many times I overstepped my own borders, and then I got like sick or depressive or whatever. And by time you realize that it's really, the importance of your own body and your own mind, you need to take care first. Otherwise, nothing else is possible. Yeah. So that's the main thing that changed during the years, to take myself more serious in a good way.
And do you go back to your home city and reconnect regularly? Or do you have a rhythm or a way of sort of checking in?
Good question. Somehow I always end up here again in Vienna, but many times without the intention to do so. But sometimes it's because of family reasons, or there might be an exhibition I take part of, or like any other possibilities. So somehow I'm still connected with the city, and I go back and forth. Yes. But in a very irregular way. Sometimes it's for a long time that I don't come back, and then very short time often.
Okay. And then did your childhood prepare you for this, like for this way of working? I mean, did you have a sort of experiences when you were a child of moving around?
What influenced me the most was when I was 9 years old and my parents separated. And I've done many moves with my mother. And in every new place, she gave me the freedom to create my rooms however I wanted, which I really loved. And I was also happy to express myself in that way, in that age also. I think this was kind of a very special time for me to get the awareness of this skill to create spaces. And sometimes the apartments we moved in were like completely falling apart, or like not really nice places. And then in a very short time, we created like a wonderful situation. So I really learned that through her or with her, she gave me the space to experience those skills, I could say. But then on the other hand, I remember that I also started painting at a very early age, like with 5 years old. And I spent a lot of time in a big studio of my mother's friend. And to be in an atelier or something is another environment I really love. So I love big spaces or like spaces with special atmosphere. And this is, I would say, another reason why I started traveling, because it's much more easier to get an interesting empty space for a short term than for a long period. So that's also how I was living in the last years. It was not in random apartments, but it was in spaces which were empty or not for use at that time. So I could stay there for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then move on to the next place.
Do you ever find abandoned or empty spaces? Like, we call it squatting here, but do you ever find spaces in urban or rural places that no one is staying in and stay there for a while? Or is it more through formal residencies and through friends?
No, it is by finding them myself, or I have to say the first 2.5 years I was working together with my partner at that time, Philipp Furtenbach. We also did those moves together, and we were looking for the spaces, but we always talked with the owners about our concept of work and living. And to live at a certain place for me means also to take care about the place. It's about taking responsibility about the place. So this exchange about places as a living space, it was always, it wasn't like an exchange, not for money, but for like taking care for a space. And instead we got given those incredible places.
So Art Destinations is really interested in how artists are connecting with place as a way of deepening their understanding of that place. And in your practice, you're physically immersed in the place, through, as you said, through acts of walking, sleeping, living, moving, making, creating. So you touched on this earlier, but the different ways that you're immersing yourself. I'd just like to unpack those a little bit. And on your website, you have a few statements or, questions that I thought we could walk through. And one of the sentences that you say is, "What matters is not what we have, but what we are capable of when we have nothing." Can you elaborate on that?
It's about this, what we are capable of when we have nothing. And nothing means like nothing materialistic in a way of belongings or objects.
Just to focus on the idea of nothing, the concept of nothing, you say walking is a productive way of doing nothing because it's a reduction to the essential. Can you elaborate on that?
For me, it means to be present, but not at a standstill. It means to move and transform while not craving for anything specific. It's about this walking as a meditation, when you're not walk to get anywhere specific, but to be on this journey. Yeah, to be in this presence.
And then you're talking about before the belongings are superfluous. They kind of become a little bit meaningless, but they can also become a heavy burden for you if you're carrying things around. When we're traveling in short times, we keep tickets and we buy souvenirs and mementos. Are you doing that? Or, what do belongings mean to you? And are you picking things up as you go? Or do you just, keep them in your mind?
So I rarely take souvenirs or anything, but what I figured out is that mostly I take stones with me. And I was questioning why it is so, but for me, a stone is kind of the essence of a place. It's like this material that is compressed over such a long time. I mean, apart from volcanic stone, but like in general. So it's, I think probably it's because the essence of a place, and also because it gives me this heaviness, or not this heaviness, but this grounding. It has this grounding aspect to me. this like, staying at the place, being at the place, sitting on a stone, lying on a stone. I really love this material.
You were saying before that sleeping is one of the ways that you get to know a place. And you were saying it's a way of sort of getting intimate with the place. Well, you could elaborate on that, but also I'm interested in how places are experienced differently at different times of the day and night.
For me, sleeping is very similar to traveling, is because you don't really know what's happening while you're sleeping. And the other thing is that I really like the idea to perceive a place on this subconscious level, not just on the conscious one, but while sleeping. So as an artist, I know that environments have a strong impact on my outcomes. And to work site specific, as I told before, means for me to spend as much time possible on site that I could truly create an honest outcome that represents or questions the surroundings. So sleeping for me is also kind of a tool to get as close as possible with a space of interest. It's like if you like someone, you also want to spend the night together. So for me, it's similar. It's the same thing with a place. If I'm curious about a place or if I want to get closer to a place, I need to sleep there because, I'm curious about this other level.
How do you feel when you spend the first night in a new place? Because I know for myself, sometimes it feels very strange.
I mean, in general, I just sleep at places I feel good with and I feel comfortable with, and I need to feel safe from a certain point. So I would never choose a place where I don't feel comfortable. It's a lot about instincts and to be aware of those instincts and to be aware of the first feeling I have when I see a place. It's like, yes, that's where I want to sleep, or no, that's a no-go. And after that, it's about making myself comfortable as possible. And then most of the times it's easy to sleep there. I mean, for sure, you never know what's happening through the night, but this could also happen in your own bed. It's like, you never know.
Okay. And so are you always sleeping under a roof or are you sleeping outside?
So if I sleep outside, I prefer to sleep without roof. So I don't carry a tent with me, which sometimes I wonder why. But I sleep outside because I want to have this exchange with the stars and the surroundings, the trees and nature in general. Or like, I want to have this exchange. I want to be part of this cosmic space. That's why I sleep outside. Yeah.
Well, just on a practical level, like if you don't have a car and you're wanting to sleep outside, are you sleeping in a park or are you sort of catching the bus and stopping somewhere, or like how are you finding these places?
I have a car. It's a convertible and it's not really possible to sleep inside. So I also chose the convertible to have a car where I could not sleep inside. So when I'm going by car, I find these places by driving around or walking around. And when I don't have the car, it's by walking around.
Okay. What type of convertible do you have? I love this image.
It's a BMW from the 90s. It's now 30 years old and it's Boston green. And right now the roof is broken, so I'm just able to drive open and sleep outside. So, yeah.
I love that. What a great image.
And actually, I chose the convertible because when traveling, when going from place A to place B, I prefer to take the small roads and not the highway. And then if you drive open, it's completely different than driving in a closed car. Driving open, for me, it's important also to connect to the landscape. And without roof, it's kind of, it's possible when you go from A to B on the small roads that you you smell everything more and you see, and you could easily connect also with people if you don't go too fast. So it's kind of this, compromise. It's kind of compromise by not walking, but still not being completely, closed in this car, in this box. Yeah. Yeah. Still being a little part of the landscape. Or like I am a part of it, but yeah, able to communicate with it.
Okay. I think that's really great. I didn't realize that you were driving, particularly in the convertible. I think that's a really great image, and also that you're so in the elements when you're driving as well. Most people are using the vehicle as a container to protect themselves from the elements, but you're not doing that. So I think that's really interesting. Now, while you're traveling through places, and the places themselves are really important for you to connect with and immerse yourself with, the places themselves aren't necessarily what the work's about. You're exploring ideas through these places. So what are some of the key themes that you're wanting to explore through your connection to a place?
I think that the place itself is very important. It's like the center, and around it the work evolves. So it's about the place and its surroundings that are central to my works. And then very often my works are connected to rituals, like I said before, like walking, or also cleaning, talking, sleeping, being together, or like being on your own. And the key themes, I couldn't say, they're like different, and they really evolve while being on site of this specific place. So it's the place itself plays an important role. It's like the main material. It is like kind of the main material.
But do you have similar themes that are threading through all of your works, or are they always different themes? Or is it the process that's the thing that's coming through rather than the...
I mean, in general, forms of habitation are very central in my work, and moving and traveling are very central to my work. And then also rituals, as I said before, are like, they're very important because they bring me closer to a place, but also to its inhabitants or people living there. But those are like very central topics which, play a big role in my work. But then it's this dialogue with the place itself. And I couldn't say before what comes up then. It's different from place to place.
So how are you deciding where you go? So you might go and do your residency at SAP, for example, and then how would you decide where you would go next?
I ask myself the same question, but then I'm always end up with that it's similar to any other idea we get. It pops up, and we don't really know where it comes from. So for me, it's the same with places. It's like, probably they come through my interests or my connections and former experiences. But at the end, it's like this moment where it's like, Sicily. Yeah, I need to go to Sicily. Why? I really don't know. And then it's important for me to be aware of this interest in a landscape, a region, a city, a town, and try to follow this interest. And then one step comes to the other. It's not really my decision. It's like an idea that pops up.
And so what themes emerged during your residency at SAP in Lingua Glossa?
Yeah, it was a lot, actually, many topics, many themes that appear. First, I would say, because the residency is connected to the Hotel Palazzo Previtera. So the first topic for me was about hospitality and feeling home at a new place. So I was dealing with this theme and what it means for me and how I could make myself comfortable at this place. And then the second theme was about cleaning, the ritual of cleaning, with the awareness, like cleaning as a ritual, like doing it in a very aware state of mind. You know every corner, and you know how the floor, if it's like flat or uneven, or you get to know the place very well. So the second theme was cleaning, and then to widen the space a bit. And I was looking around Lingua Glossa, and I saw all this cardboard on the streets, and I really liked the cardboard to work with it, but not just because it's cardboard, but also questioning the production of waste and how we deal with waste. And in Northern Europe or Central Europe, Austria, where I'm from, you rarely see the waste we are creating. But in Sicily, and especially Lingua Glossa, it was like a material very visible to me. And I like the idea to give this waste like a different value, and to talk about it, and to look at it, and to transform it also. And this was another important theme for me. And another thing was the strong emergence of people who make natural wine, and the associated rituals of being together. There is this association in Lingua Glossa, the bar Pinot Azzurro. And so, yeah, a lot of people met there, and I just found it super beautiful to have this ritual with, those rituals created around wine. So I also worked with the rituals and being together. I also grasped this for the exhibition.
What was your connection with Etna while you were staying at Lingua Glossa? Did you work on Mount Etna, or did you interact with the mountain in any way?
So it erupted 3 times while I was in Sicily, and these eruptions I find very interesting because it's bringing things to the surface. And usually we are not confronted with that, right? But there it's really, you feel this power and this energy, and it's bringing like deep things up to the surface. Well, what I was doing there is like to look what is coming up, but this concerns my inside. It's not like looking at the lava is one point, but at the same time, many things from my inside came up. And so we get confronted with eruptions. And I think it's really important to look at what comes up, and to use this potential, and to see the potential, and to create something new out of it. And on one hand, it's like very destructive, but if you take the challenge of it, it's like very creative. So my work down there, and also my personal work, was very not inspired, but very influenced by Etna. It's just, I think you have to be kind of strong to deal with this energy. And I was very fascinated how many strong people I met around this region. This was something I found very interesting, that like many people I got to know had very strong characters. So to settle down around this volcano takes a lot of courage, I would say.
Okay, and you had a beautiful cave work with an image of a cave on Mount Etna printed on silk, I think it was.
This photography I did the first time I went to Sicily, but it's not from Mount Etna. It's from Villaggio Bizantino, close to Enna. There is like this old Byzantine village which still exists and is in incredible shape. And I was just so astonished about architecture from such a long time ago, and how it still gives us everything we kind of need to have a good living. So I took this image and printed on fabric, also fabric as a contrast to stone, which I found very important to have this soft and hard, or soft and strong, these opposites. So yeah, it's one image I showed in the exhibition, apart from another cave, which is a necropole from Pantalica. And yeah, I didn't mention yet, but my work is a lot about different forms of habitation, and everything I showed in exhibition is connected to research I do about Sicily, but then also went on in Sardinia and Corsica, which is about caves, and caves as our primal forms of habitation and shelter, but also places for rituals.
I've been actually doing work with caves myself, and I came across a TED talk by Holly Moyes, who was talking about how the Mayan culture used caves for their rituals in South America. It sounds like it would be worth investigating. She's written a book as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm happy for any suggestions, because I started it as research, and I didn't spend a lot of time with doing physical research, not theoretical research. But the cave really, for me, combines all my interests in my work. So like the shelter, the aspect of the shelter, the question of habitation and how we live, and architecture also. But then also it was like the first space where we found art itself, drawings, and then the aspect of doing rituals in a cave. So it's kind of materialization of a space that combines different, very important aspects of living for me.
And it's also, landscape architecture in its most perfect form, really.
Exactly, yeah.
What were your observations and experiences about when you were traveling through Sicily? And do you have any particular highlights or stories that you can share with us?
It's so many that I find it a bit difficult right now to mention one specific, but so I did like 2 long journeys, on long but intense journeys. And I actually went, now when I was there from Palermo to Crateri, to the first caves, and then on to Lingua Glossa and to Etna, and the villages around Etna, and then to Catania and Siracusa, and then to Pantalica, where you have this incredible necropole. It's called Necropole di Pantalica, which I found super impressive. And then to Noto and Ispica, where you also find some amazing caves, and this Villaggio Bizantino around Enna, and Kusunaki, where you find Grotta Mangiabane, and then to San Vito Lo Capo, where I slept in a cave. So it's kind of a lot of different impressions and different experiences. Maybe one thing that I remembered very well, when after Palermo, I went to Crateri, I don't know how to pronounce it right. And there are like a couple of caves, and I wanted to stay overnight in one of those caves, but then heard some dogs yawning and realized, okay, there might already someone live in. So I was walking up the mountain, and I decided to sleep on a kind of plateau where I could look over the sea, and it was a very peaceful place, and I felt very comfortable until 5 o'clock in the morning, when I heard the sheeps coming by and the bells of the sheeps. So I woke up and I saw all the sheeps passing by me, and then I saw the dog very close to me. And I wanted to stay safe and kind of get rid of the dog. And then suddenly behind me, there was the shepherd standing, and he was like shouting at me and wanted me to go away. And it was a pity that I couldn't speak Italian, because I was very curious to talk with him. And it was kind of in that moment, I was really afraid, because I couldn't tell what he's able to do. He looked older and like kind of rough and was like very aggressive. And it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I really didn't know what to do. So, and I would have loved to talk with him because actually I realized he was the guy living in this cave and I was really curious to get to know more about him, but it was like kind of difficult in this moment. And I just kindly asked him to come down and give me some time to pack my stuff and then I will go. And then he left and then after a while he came back again and he asked me for an Argentino, for a lighter. And I gave him a light and then he was sitting very close to me and smoking the cigarette. And then I was like wondering again, what's happening now? So it was like this uncertainty that I couldn't tell what is happening. And I don't know if what he's able to do or what his intention was. So this was kind of a very intense moment and kind of non-verbal exchange I had with this shepherd living in the cave. And so at the end, after his cigarette, he was very kind and soft and he was like, yeah, dorme, sleep, he told me. He was like, he was fine with me staying there. But I would have wished that I was able to speak Italian because I was really curious to talk with this man who lives with his dog in this cave above or like below me. Yeah.
I don't know how many countries still have shepherds working in that way.
I think more than we think, but I wasn't aware that they exist in Sicily and also so close to the coast. It's, this village is not very far away from socialization. So it's nothing I expected. So this was like kind of a surprise, also a situation where I really got afraid, but then at the same time where I had this beautiful moment of exchange, non-verbal exchange with a complete stranger.
Well, my first thought was that you would have been pretty happy to see the shepherd after seeing those dogs, because I've met a Maremma, the Italian shepherd dogs, and especially the ones that live in the wild with their job to look after the sheep. They're very scary.
Exactly. They were scary. So that's why I thought I was looking for a stone or something that I have kind of something in my hand in case he would come closer. But then there was the shepherd standing above behind me with his stick. And then I got super scared because he was really, very aggressive and like, wow.
I was going to ask you one more question. We don't necessarily need to talk about it, but I was just going to ask you how your studies of landscape design and industrial design have influenced your practice, because through this episode mainly, but also through the Venice season, there have been quite a few artists working with these disciplines. And I think that's pretty interesting, but not surprising when you're working with place and also site-specific work. But I was just wondering how it specifically might influence you.
To answer this question, I want to say that before industrial design, I studied textile design. And then after industrial design and landscape design, I also studied site-specific art. And my father and my brother are both architects. So they're like there is this layer of architecture, of design, of landscape, of textiles. And all of these disciplines are visible in the way I'm working right now. So it's because my love for architecture, I'm moving around from one space to another. And because textiles are like the first house we had somehow, is the first layer, is the first shelter. It's like a very nomadic material. And so that's why I I use it a lot. I always travel with blankets and carpets and bed sheets. So like the textile is a very important element in my work as well. But industrial design, for example, gave me the understanding to work with a variety of materials. So I learned to work with wood and ceramics and metal, which is very useful when I do site-specific works and dealing with specific materials I could find on site. And then landscape design somehow taught me how to interact with the surrounding or with a bigger surrounding. So it's all of those influences which you could find again in my practice and in my works.
That's a really beautiful way to end, I think, Hanna. I really think that it's quite beautiful to sort of see the interweaving and also to imagine these beautiful textiles maybe on the back seat of your convertible. I really like that image. Thank you very much for coming along and being part of Art Destinations. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah, for doing the interview with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this conversation with Hanna Burkart. Be reminded about the next episode of Art Destinations Sicily by subscribing to our fortnightly newsletter on our website artdestinations.org. I'm your host, Sarah Rhodes. Ciao for now.